Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey folks, John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform to help you find your best, most true, authentic business voice. In fact, your most authentic voice is more like it. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, make billions of dollars, meet the person of your dreams. We're not quite ready to guarantee those last two dynamics yet, but we're getting closer and closer. And love the fact that more people every episode keep liking, watching, sharing, and I'm terribly grateful for that. And I think the biggest reason for that is that we get the pleasure to bring people on who walk the walk. And to me, that's what it's all about. Finding the right people that were willing and able to share their own arc to authenticity. Today, folks, no exception. We've got a Jersey Shore guy. As a Philadelphia, PA native, that excites me to no end. Dennis Mark Interdonato, welcome, sir, to the show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, John, for having me today. I've truly been looking forward to this.
100% a pleasure, and I appreciate you. Folks, we've got a realtor. We've got an Army drill sergeant, so look alive, folks. And someone that I'm really excited. I can already feel their presence and feel their energy. So, Dennis, you come from a military family that includes you. Because I don't. My dad was in the Navy and he passed away years ago, and I don't have a strong background. What is that like in terms of the family dynamic, in addition to actually serving? And I know you were part of the reserves, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, ironically, growing up in my family, the military was not pushed on us. My grandfather, World War II veteran, Navy veteran, never ever talked to me or my brother about joining the military, going in. We would always talk about his service, his time, what he did. Never was pushed on us. My father could not go into the military. He
Okay.
tried. He was going to be a Marine. The day before he was going to ship, they showed up at his doorstep with a letter telling him he could not ship out because they had him down as being the sole provider of the family.
Oh,
Which was weird because at the time it was just him and his mother. But
right.
for whatever reason, they had him down for that. So my father never had the opportunity to go. Growing up, the military was never even talked about in our house.
Okay.
I joined the Army really because I was bored. I was bored with life. I had zero direction, didn't know what I wanted to do. The only thing I did know was that I didn't want to do what my parents kept telling me to do.
Which
So,
was?
which was go to college, get a degree,
Mm-hmm.
go get a job, and it wasn't working for me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined the Army really to get away. And I went away. I did a couple months training. Changed my whole life in those couple months. Gave me direction. Felt like I had purpose. I felt more of a man, even at 19 years old. But
Right.
it was just different. You know, I had different influences, and I really, really felt like I had found my calling. So fast forward to about, I don't know, a couple months later,
Mm-hmm.
my brother was a little bit of a wild child. And basically, I took him aside and I had said to him, "You're going in because I'm not going to have you keep getting in trouble and yada yada."
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, he listened to me. He went in. We both at the time did the National Guard artillery unit in Tom's River. So I went into basic training the end of that year, which was, I think, 1997. My brother shortly followed going into basic training. We both came out. We both spent time in the unit in Tom's River. And I would say 5 years into my initial contract, I was having, I was just having issues coming to terms with continuing being a soldier. I was
Right.
just going to let my contract run out. The leadership in my unit wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really what I needed. Again, I was bored and I wasn't being
Oh.
challenged,
Mm-hmm.
and I just didn't feel that it was worth my time anymore. I had a officer who we called our FIDO, excuse me, the stands for FDO, which is Fire Direction Officer.
Okay.
So he comes up to me and he says, intro. So intro is
Is
the
your
abbreviated
nickname or
nickname
shortened?
for me and my brother.
Got
Growing up, we were always intro. It was, big intro. Kevin was little intro. Mom and dad were Mr. and Mrs. Intro.
it.
So the nickname carried over into the
Right.
military. And he goes, intro, you make a great drill sergeant, man. You want to become a drill sergeant? And I looked at him and I said, sir, if you could make that happen for me, I'll stay in the army. I'll go become a drill sergeant. He said, I'm going to make it happen. I thought he was full of it.
Yeah.
About a month later, he comes to me. He's like, hey, I got you a meeting with so and so, which was Army Reserve recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
I met with the recruiter. The recruiter was like, yep, you kind of qualify. I was an E4 at the time. I
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
even a sergeant yet.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, look, there's a path for you. The first thing though is we have to get you out of the guard. So I went to my commander. I asked for a conditional release. They gave it to me. Went into the Army Reserve. Went right into training to become a sergeant, which at the time they called PLDC, which stood for Primary Leadership Development Course.
Mm-hmm.
So, or sergeant school. Excelled in PLDC. I was the student first sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
I was the only student first sergeant that they never changed out. They were supposed to change out first sergeants every 2 to 3 days. For the whole 2 week camp, I stayed the first sergeant the entire time because I was so effective, and I literally ran the school for all of them. They didn't have to lift a finger. They gave me this book
Mm-hmm.
on the first night, and they were like, here, this is what you need to do. I said, okay. I read through the book. I knew what I needed to do, took the initiative, called up all the acting platoon sergeants that were student platoon sergeants, had a meeting that night, got everyone together. The next morning, we were out, ready to go in the morning in formation. Cadre walks out. They go, what are you doing? I said, we're ready to train. He goes, who told you how to do this? I said, the book you gave me.
In a couple of days.
It was like, yeah, it was like, honestly, like this was all within hours. This was all within a 12-hour span.
Dennis, are you at this point like so I hear drill sergeant and I
Yeah.
picture like loud and mean and did you have to embrace that personality? Is that a misnomer or were you already loud and mean? Which of the three fit you the best?
It's not really a real thing. Like, I'm not
Okay,
loud.
great.
Look, we can all be loud and mean.
All right.
It's part of the drill sergeant persona for sure. But by nature, I
Mm-hmm.
would say that's really not me. It takes a lot for me to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I like that's a true act for me and not an act that I really like to do. So, as a drill sergeant, I was very, I don't know, easygoing, but like really effective. I had the respect of all the
Mm-hmm.
troops, and it was because I treated them like people and not pieces of meat.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent time with them, a lot of time. A lot of my downtime I spent with the troops, teaching them things, teaching them like new cadences, or just talking to them and getting to know them. And not very characteristic of drill sergeants, but at the time, the role of the drill sergeant was changing, and they were transitioning drill sergeants from
Mm-hmm.
a drill sergeant to more of a squad leader based position where we would go and do everything with the privates. So train as we fight,
Mm-hmm.
follow me, let me lead you. And that's exactly what I embraced, but I embraced every aspect of it. And it proved to work really, really good for me.
So you're leading by example
Yeah.
rather than decreeing orders,
Yeah.
or barking orders or whatever.
Hmm.
And you use the word a couple times effective. So what I would be curious about is, and it worked well, so I believe I got a preview of the answer. But what I was going to ask you was this: when people, these guys, because they're How old that you're leading?
They were ranging from 18 to 35 at the time.
Got it. So that's a pretty significant age range.
Yeah.
And so, did people push back from all of the hands-on stuff? Like, just let me do my job, or was it uniformly embraced?
Well, we didn't really have a choice. It had to be embraced because that was our
Okay.
job.
Mm-hmm.
In the military, you don't really get choices. You're told something and you do it. That's just the
Mm-hmm.
way it is.
But for me, what I find so impactful is that you're not the bossing them around type, and you're still getting results. So I find that, to me, um, even if it's, we tell them and it just happens, I still find that impressive that you're able to pull that off in a way, because again, it's the typical model is I've got to boss you into, I'm a boss, I got to boss you in certain ways. And I believe the communicating by doing and by leading example is
Hmm.
is always effective. To me, it's so refreshing, but there are certain individuals that don't always want that sort of hand holding, right?
Yeah.
Um, how long did you do it?
So in total, I was in the military for 10 years.
Right, right.
As a drill sergeant, I did it
Yes,
for 3 years.
that's great. That what would you say you were able to take out of the drill sergeant part of the experience in relation to becoming a full-on adult and becoming a private citizen?
Being a drill sergeant, you are exposed to a lot of different personalities,
Mm.
some of which are, try to test you.
Mm-hmm.
You get people from all different walks of life, and some of those walks of life, they don't respect you before they met you.
Right.
So one of the biggest takeaways was being able to learn how to read people. And going back to your previous question about
Mm-hmm.
like how it was taken with trying like telling people what to do,
Mm-hmm.
there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can learn how to effectively communicate with different personalities, you will always win. And that was a big
Mm-hmm.
takeaway because I had to learn how to get through to everyone, not
Mm-hmm.
just a specific
Sure.
demographic.
Right.
And certainly that has helped me in my life and
Mm-hmm.
in my business, especially with what I do now.
Can you give me an example of whether it's early on? I don't care if it's even as recently as this afternoon, but I was
Hmm.
going to say, but an early example of when you realized that, like an effective result. As you said, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but can you give me an example when you knew it's like, oh, yeah, this is going to go?
I can. It may not be like an amazing example because in my head, I don't
Mhm.
really recall too many situations where it was meaningful enough to make me actually remember. But
Mhm.
I ride with a motorcycle club too, and this
Mhm.
particular this
Yep.
particular club I started in 2017. So as we were growing the club, at one point we were growing very fast, and
Mhm.
we were letting fellas into the club whose personalities may not have been completely characteristic of a personality that, let's say, I would hang out with on a regular basis.
Mhm.
But you give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and you really try to get to know these people.
Mhm.
What these people don't know though is that I need them to be themselves, and the more that they are themselves, the more I'm learning how to communicate with them
Mhm.
in order and essentially see what makes them tick. So we had a couple off color fellas that were coming around, and eventually we did bring into the club because they proved to be beneficial not only to the club
Mhm.
but also to us in general to have them in our lives. However, getting to know them was difficult because
Mhm.
they came from different walks of life that I certainly was not used to. So sitting back, listening, taking in the way that they talk, the way they act, the way that they see other people,
Mhm.
that allowed me to figure out a way to get on their level when I did communicate with them. And it made for my relationship with them a lot easier to develop over time.
When you're saying that the club and it was different and all that, were people thinking when you started the club, like I think of like old school, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
motorcycle clubs and and Hell's Angels and Warlocks or whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
As opposed to the joy of motorcycle riding, right?
Right.
What was the intention of the club when you joined it? And those different personalities, how did they choose to stay within the club, even if they were cut from a different cloth, so to speak?
So I will tell you that those personalities are no longer with the club,
Okay.
because over time,
Uh-huh.
true colors did eventually come out. Uh, we we are every bit of a motorcycle club, but we are not um what's we are not we're not criminals.
Well, that's a good distinction.
Right. We'll never end up in jail.
And
There
uh,
is not a hidden agenda within our club. Not to say that there's hidden agendas with any other club,
right.
but I would say we're more family based, more community based. We are a bunch of military, first responders, and
Mm-hmm.
patriots who really just want to be there for each other. Mostly we miss some type of camaraderie in our lives, and
Mm.
that's why we go searching for clubs like ours, is because there's just something missing, and most guys find it within the club.
Got it. Got it. That's and so in terms of the size or scope of the club, how many
Mhm.
people do you currently have in it?
So here's a little education for you and for
Great.
anybody else who listens
Yes,
to
please.
this. A motorcycle club will never talk about their numbers. And the reason why
Yeah.
is
Interesting.
because
Thanks.
this will now date back to when motorcycle clubs first started forming and claiming territory.
Okay.
You are as strong or weak or as weak
Hmm.
as the numbers in your club. So you never want anyone to know how big or small you are for fear that another club could come in and take you over if you were smaller than them. So a motorcycle club will never tell you how many members they have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I even love the way that you phrase that. Hey, here's a little education. I love that. I know I get excited when somebody says that because it's like great. I want to learn. I want to
Yeah.
know. So in terms of this, what would you say is the most satisfying part of being affiliated with your club? How does it mostly impact you personally?
I would say it's twofold.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it really gives us an opportunity to blend with the community
Mm.
and show the community that despite the way we may appear
Mm-hmm.
physically,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of clubs that all that we want to do is do good for our communities,
Mm-hmm.
give back, most especially with charities. Motorcycle communities are probably one of, if not the largest conglomerate in uh, donating to charities.
Mm-hmm.
We're a very, very big part of that. And it's great to be able to show the public that side of us.
Mm.
And the other part to your question is it's really just knowing that no matter what kind of day I'm having, no
Mm-hmm.
matter where I am, no matter what I need, I 100% know that at least one or two guys are going to be around, or I can just go meet up with them, or they're going to
Mm-hmm.
come over, or we're going to go grab a bite to eat,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Like we are always there for each other. And that literally is one of the main points of being in this club.
Well, I couldn't imagine like if you know that sense of knowing, right? That has to transcend in a way to the way that you're able to live a day-to-day life in the sense that if you know that you've got support behind you, you know, and you're a family guy, and we'll definitely get to that. But I mean, but in that sense that of having an extended, legit family, that part's really cool.
Yeah, it
Uh,
really is.
Right. So where have you ridden road? I'm typically better with English and grammar than that. That was something new and was exciting for you. A place that you've been as a result with this group of people.
hmm My most
Mhm.
memorable ride
Yeah.
was actually not with anybody from this club.
Okay.
Years ago, I was part of another club,
Hmm.
and we were at a rally down in Tennessee. We caged there, and when we say caged,
Mm.
that means that we put the bikes up on a trailer and we drove. So we
Oh,
drove in
okay.
we drove in our cages.
Hmm.
So in the motorcycle community, if we're referencing anything regarding our cages, we're talking about our vehicles, our cars or our trucks. So we caged it to Tennessee because there was a lot of us. Half of us couldn't ride the whole trip. Half of us could. Plus, it was just quicker to cage it. Plus, there was inclement weather coming. We didn't want to get
Right.
caught in the rain. But on the way, when the rally was done, we actually drove back. We rode back home. And
Hmm.
we did it in one day. It was a 12-hour ride in the heat of July. And it was a rough ride,
Nice.
but
Mm.
it was really a lot of fun.
Mm.
And certainly my most memorable ride ever, certainly my longest ride ever.
Mm.
And I really enjoy it, and I'll never forget it for sure.
I think when I hear phrases like "I'll never forget it" for sure, that to me just tells like those are the sorts of events that they just matter. They just matter.
Yeah.
Um, I know that you are in terms of like I said, I don't know anything, but I was going to say, but I've learned so far that in terms of overall that your family weaves into any bio that I've read, any story that I've seen. Were you have you always been a close family?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, no, that's a lie. Let's backtrack that. So the family dynamic has always been close. My mother and father,
Yep.
phenomenal parents.
Hmm.
They literally worked to give my brother and I everything that they
Hmm.
could possibly afford for us.
Hmm.
We did family vacations every year. Um, Christmas, there was never a
Hmm.
gift that was not given. Uh, Never went without food, even when
Hmm.
times were bad. And there were some really bad times. Not only did Kevin and I not know about those bad times, but they never even led on that it was a bad time.
Right.
They were just
That's great.
phenomenal parents.
Hmm.
Dad was always there, coaching us, and
Mm.
mom, she
Hmm.
was she was a stay-at-home mom.
Hmm.
So it was
Mine
a great,
too. I love
awesome,
that.
awesome, and it
Hmm.
was a great life. For me, I was not the close one. Growing up, I was a super moody kid.
Okay.
I had uh, a lot of things that I could not explain going on in my head.
Hmm.
And fast forward to my 40s,
Hmm.
that whole time in my life, from when I was a little kid all the way till I was about 42,
Hmm.
I had always been that way. I would have periods of my life where uh, I just didn't feel good mentally,
Hmm.
like extreme sadness, things like that, and it would always take me away from the family. I did not want to be with my family. I didn't want, in college, it was always I would just stay with my fraternity. I never came home when
Okay.
I
Okay.
eventually went to college. Thank you to the army
Hmm.
for setting me straight, but I never wanted to come home. I never wanted to be home. I just didn't. I never felt close to my family
Hmm.
like that. So fast forward into my 40s, I was really having a hard time with life, like really hard. I kept having these like spells of like sadness or like angst or just being angry or not wanting to do anything. Turns out, and you and I, we've talked about this. It
Yeah.
turns out that I got diagnosed as
Hmm.
bipolar depressive, and as the conversations continued regarding me being this way, we realized that I had been like this my entire life.
Mm.
But growing up, being depressed wasn't a thing.
Sure.
especially in my family.
Hmm.
Those words never even came out of my parents' mouths. So they just chalked it up to me being a moody kid, but the moods continued through the years. But what I had learned to do was hide them.
How?
Be- Um, it was really hard. I'll be honest with you,
Hmm.
man. Uh, I would just put on a face
Hmm.
while I was in front of people. And then when it was just me behind closed doors, that's when like all the feelings, everything else would just flow through me.
Hmm.
And I would just have to work through it. Eventually, I knew that whatever wave, I'll call it a negative wave that I was on,
Ooh, I
it
like
was
your stance.
going
Yeah.
to eventually go away and I would feel
Hmm.
normal again.
Okay.
So I had to like wait it out.
Hmm.
There would be weekends where I would like lock myself in my bedroom. Back when we had answering machines, I would change the message on my answering machine and tell people I went away for the weekend so nobody would bother me. And I would just sit in my room
Hmm.
and just lull in my misery.
Mm.
And to this day, it still happens. I still
Hmm.
go through it.
Hmm.
Not as bad as it was. I've found some ways to kind of cope with it or, lessen the blow, I guess we could say.
Right.
And it's just something I deal with now. But I often think like what would have happened had I been diagnosed early on, like what my life would have been or my life choices or where it would have gone,
Hmm.
had I had the diagnosis when I was a kid or even like when I was a teenager. But then I think about it again and I'm like, well, I'm kind of glad I wasn't because I'm really happy with where I'm at right
Hmm.
now. So,
So you're an adult when you realize that. And you're an
yeah,
adult so you can make adult decisions as
yeah,
opposed to a kid that would then have the answer would typically come from the family unit.
right.
Well, therefore you will do this. And while you might get asked, what do you think? That might be as far as it went in regards to the decision making process. As you shared earlier, and I'm grateful that you did, that you've chosen to do this non-medicated. What got you
Yeah.
to that decision?
I just don't I don't want to start with the medications because it's
Hmm.
never just one. It starts with one, then you get used
Hmm.
to it, then it goes up in strength. Maybe
Hmm.
they move you on to something else. You have to get used to them every time they change it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, look, if I'm going to go through those types of roller coasters, I might as well just stay off of it because I'm on a roller coaster already.
Okay.
At least I know how to deal with this one.
Hmm. Did people try to talk you out of that decision?
Some people questioned it, and
Hmm.
nobody tried to talk me out of it after I explained to them my position.
Right, right. That's the thing. It's like because then just from someone I've suffered from anxiety. I take medications in my life, and so I've never been a guy that's been like, well, I take no medication. I take for different things, but I don't typically take them for things like mental health issues. Not, and let me
Right.
say that better, for mental health issues. And I've had that sense of fear and not hmm, that the adjusting and tweaking and tinkering and that sort of thing has been something that I have bristled from. So I just haven't. Um, I One of the things that I admire when anyone talks about bipolar disorder is that it was nothing when I was growing up. That wasn't a word that was used.
Right.
Uh, well, and like you had said earlier, no word was used. You know what
Right.
I mean? It was like weird kid, good kid, bad kid, but it wasn't typically that to what felt like a body blow of a term. And one of the things I'm terribly grateful for as time goes on is a couple things. Number one, guys talking about mental health at all. I was always shy in regards to that stuff. Um, and the increased frequency in just speaking of it. And then number two, the sense that the terms become a little less or a lot less ominous as they keep being brought to light, which is why I like the conversation. I don't want to hear anybody going through negative waves or the things that you're saying. I don't root for that, but I hid from stuff, man. And that's why, like I said, anyone else that says that makes me feel a little less like weird. And I would be curious for you that you are in careers, whether it was the construction, home building, the family stuff, um, the real estate world. One thing that I would say in common with all of those professions is nobody wants to wait. So while it's like, okay, I'm just going to ride this wave out for a few days, and I'm picturing people nagging you for information, decisions, get me, give me. How did you navigate professionally as this is going on? What's good?
Surprisingly, it does not affect me professionally at all.
How so?
I don't know, man. It's always been one of those things where no matter what, it has
Mm-hmm.
never affected
Mm-hmm.
anything where I had to perform.
Okay.
Whether it was me in the military or
Mm-hmm.
me
Right.
with a
Right.
job or
Mm-hmm.
me with the motorcycle club,
Mm-hmm.
it I don't know if it's just because I have just this crazy work ethic,
Right.
that my father instilled in us.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know why it doesn't, but it
Mm-hmm.
will. I always said it will never. I'll never let it affect my job. I'll never let it
Mm-hmm.
affect anything else. What it does affect is anything personal for me.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
intimate relationships,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anything dealing with my personal life or myself individually, it affects. But when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to work, there must be like some kind of like cutoff in my brain that's like,
Mm-hmm.
Dennis, you need money to survive. So
Mm-hmm.
cut the shit right here. All right. We'll let you feel bad for yourself, but only up to this point,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So
So you're able to compartmentalize is one way you could say it, that you can literally take it and put it over here,
yeah,
and then the responsibility gets done. Uh, that's pretty cool. You were sharing with me before too, the sense that as a realtor, one of the things that you had said was that you typically handle things on your own. I
yes.
typically handle everything on your own. Is that just the way you've always operated, or is that just something that you felt like is just works better for you business wise, or does it have some aspect of that's why I use the word compartmentalize
Right.
that in a way is that also a form of protecting you?
I'm sure that on some level, it's a form of protection.
Mm-hmm.
Diving into my business takes me away from the reality of having to deal
Mm-hmm.
with feelings.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the actual real estate business, though, where
Yeah.
I was,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we had to do everything ourselves. There was no help. The company that I was with, they taught us how to fend for ourselves, which
Mm-hmm.
I am actually very grateful for because, you heard that line, like, what is it? Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a night.
Right.
Teach a man to fish, and he'll never
Mm-hmm.
go hungry again.
Yeah.
That company, they taught me how to fish, which is wonderful. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I was burning the candle at both ends
Sure.
because I was doing everything. And, you can start leveraging other people to help you with things.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, all of that costs money,
Oh, 100%.
and if you don't want to part with the money
Mm-hmm.
or it's really not in the budget right now, you just end up doing everything yourself. But mostly, I'm a control freak.
Okay.
It's really hard for me to let go and
Uh-huh.
have other people do things for me unless I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're
Mhm.
going to do it as well as I can do it or better.
So as I look at you, hey folks, if you're one of the lucky ones that are watching this podcast as opposed to just hearing this podcast, you have a very Dennis, very individual style. Killer hair, by the way. It's a
Thank you.
killer.
Thank you.
Um, a killer hair, killer beard, killer detail, and you are
Yes, sir.
clearly a details guy. So there's a lot of good with being a control freak in a
Yeah.
sense that, as I said, your beard is just so, the hair is just so, the clothes rock, and all that stuff. So look, it ain't all bad. You know what I mean? It ain't all bad being a control freak. And because ultimately so many decisions, especially the real estate side, come back to you singularly anyway. You know what I mean? Even if you're trying to delegate stuff, ultimately it's coming back to you.
Right.
Um, what's it like when now you're going to get this opportunity to be able to delegate or work with teams and stuff? What decisions in your mind would you make in regards to you? Knowing that this is not the army and that they can't just tell you and you'll do it. How do you see yourself being able to evolve, so to speak, in regards to being a part of a team?
So a couple of years back, I had attended a an educational summit,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and there was a guest speaker,
Mm.
and one of the things that was said during this presentation really stuck with me
Right.
and has really become one of my mantras for business and life.
Mm-hmm.
And the phrase is, you can let change happen to you, or you can let it happen for you.
Mm.
And it really, like, when I heard that,
Mm-hmm.
it really changed the way that I see things
Mm.
because I'm a creature of habit. I
Mm-hmm.
do not like change.
Okay.
But after hearing this person speak, I started thinking, maybe change isn't so bad.
Mm.
So I learned to embrace the idea of change.
Mm-hmm.
And with me making this shift into this new brokerage now,
Yeah.
the change is good because I believe that I'm moving forward in my career. This
Okay.
brokerage is a smaller, luxury based brokerage
Mm-hmm.
that wants to expand. And all of that is literally what I wanted to do with my business.
Mm.
Move toward a more
Mm-hmm.
luxury based price point and style of concierge service
Mm-hmm.
and be a part of something that I could have input in. And I have all of that here. So making the switch over to this company, I think it's going to be good for me.
Sometimes, like you talk about with organizations, like things happen, as you said, for you rather than to you. But
Right.
also, what I would say is time, experience, and what have you. I find for me at least, either puts me in a position where I'm able to embrace more, that or recoil from it. How would you say, in terms of the ways that you communicate, have evolved from going from Army drill sergeant to, realtor in currently, because as all this is going national and all that sort of thing within the company, meaning a realtor in 2024. Five, sorry. And I embarrass myself. I'll get right with the time of year or calling the year.
We'll get it eventually.
There you go.
I would say prior to me getting into real estate,
Right.
my influences were limited to my family and,
Mm.
just the people that I chose to keep company with.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got into real estate,
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity to meet people and rub elbows with people that I never would have met prior to getting into the real
Mm-hmm.
estate industry. That has helped with my communication skills immensely
Mm.
because uh, it's been a big education for me. Meeting
Right.
people that are, very well off,
Mm-hmm.
really rich,
Mm-hmm.
doing well for themselves, setting goals, hitting those goals, living the lives that they want to live on their own terms. They're literally living life by design.
Mm-hmm.
And having all of that and I guess being introduced to all of that and those different mindsets and lifestyles made me want to learn more about it. And as I did, the education came. And with the
Mm.
education came reading more books,
Mm-hmm.
listening to more podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
having conversations with people that I never thought I would have conversations with. And all of it has been a learning experience. And with that education has come a different way that I view things,
Hmm.
see things, and talk about things.
Do you think all of that experience has made you more open, uh, less fearful, or were you already that and you just see yourself as expanding?
Certainly more open.
Great.
I wouldn't say less fearful. I've always
Hmm.
been a risk taker. My father was a
Yeah.
risk taker. Nothing scares us. So I'll jump into anything if I think
Hmm.
that it's even like 50% good, 50% bad. I'm willing to take the risk, like I
That's
don't know.
impressive. Hey, it might
Call
be
me call
50%
me an
bad, and
adrenaline
you're still
junkie,
jumping in.
maybe.
But listen, you're part of a bike club and you rode Tennessee. And you've been in the army, so that's a lot of things that you kicked through. You had said earlier, man, that there was a point, and it was like really during like at a younger age where you weren't necessarily a family person.
Right.
There was that. What do you think changed for you in regards to pulling you back in?
When I got out of college,
Right.
I went to work for my dad.
Hmm.
And working with him side by side for so many years just gave me a completely different viewpoint on him. I saw him completely different than I did
Hmm.
prior to me getting into the family business.
Hmm.
I was not a talker. I was not a communicator as a
Hmm.
kid. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to verbalize feelings or anything like that. It was tough for me growing up.
Hmm.
I had a lot of things that I just didn't know how to explain, and I went through life like that. But as I got older and then
Hmm.
working with my father, I had a completely newfound respect for him and started to understand him a lot more.
Hmm.
And now, like, look, the man is my hero. He
Hmm.
100% is. He's the best mentor I've
Hmm.
ever had. And like, I dread the day that he is no longer here
Hmm.
because I just don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
Hmm. So, what would you say are one or two of the traits that you think about in addition to best mentor, uh, that you identify as the way that you see things differently in regards to your dad?
Two things, two real big takeaways
Yeah.
from working with my father through the
Hmm.
years that I definitely would not have picked up had I not been with him.
Hmm.
The first thing is patience. My father has the patience of a goddamn saint, man. And I learned patience through
Hmm.
observation
Hmm.
because I flew off the handle
Hmm.
as, when I was younger,
Hmm.
like at everything, not in a mean way, just in like a I can't believe this is happening type of way. And what are we going to do to fix it? Or
Hmm.
how could you let that person talk to you like that? Or,
Hmm.
what is this guy doing? He owes you money. Why aren't you going to get it?
Hmm.
My father taught me patience, and at the same time, he taught me strategy
Oh, okay. Cool.
because my father is a thinker.
Uh-huh.
And before he does anything, he will observe it, then he will think about it,
Hmm.
then he will act on it. And I 100% took that away from working with him. And I am the same way now. So much so that the guys in my club
Right.
know it. And they will know the type of answer they're going to get based on the way I look when they ask me the question.
Well, you look really good, so I was gonna say.
So sometimes people will ask you a question and
Right.
you'll have an answer right away.
Hmm.
Sometimes people will ask you a question and you'll sit there and you'll think about it.
Hmm.
Or you might sit there to let them think about the question they just asked you,
Hmm.
right? So different situations call for different ways of reacting. And all that, again, learned from my father.
Tell me if I got it right of the three. So you observe from your pop, observe, think about it, act on it.
Yep.
See, my God, it's like I couldn't imagine. Um, that you would make too many mistakes because you've got all three of the dynamics in. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
That especially the action part. You know, that you're not going off half-cocked,
Hmm.
that you're not, you know what I mean, like compromising a relationship or a potential relationship or a situation, but you're not just sitting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's a really cool uh set of principles, some that I'll carry with me from this point forward. I think it's
Yep.
great. How would you, I asked everybody this point, how would you define authenticity as it relates to you or those you admire?
Authenticity, it's tough. It's tough to see in people,
Hmm.
especially if you only have like a few seconds to show people who you really are. I would say that the best way to exude authenticity
Hmm.
or to have for other people to observe it in you
Hmm. Mm.
is to just come from a place of contribution
Mm.
always.
Hmm.
Meaning, make it your mantra. Like when you wake up in the morning, one of the first things you should think about is what you can do for somebody else today,
Mm.
right? You get
Hmm.
to work, someone needs help, go help them. Hey, what do you need
Right.
help with?
Hmm.
Come into my office, sit down, let's have a talk. Let me see if I can help you out, right? And authenticity comes in many different forms too. It can come from generosity, but
Right.
not random generosity. Like,
Hmm.
let me rephrase that. Not forced generosity.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna film it and put it on social media, and everybody sees how generous I am, right?
No.
Right. So I'm talking about just being that person all the time. If you want to be authentic,
Hmm.
you have to have a lifestyle of authenticity. You have to live it.
Hmm.
That's, at least one part of your life has to be like that. And just be original, but believe whatever you're doing. So,
Hmm.
for example, I'll take my dad,
Yeah.
right? Quiet man, heart of gold, patience of a saint. He's the same person he is today that he was 50 years ago.
Oh, wow.
He's never changed. He's never let anything rattle him to the point
Hmm.
where his mindset changed or the way he felt about things changed. He's truly an authentic man.
Mm. I find that beautiful. Hey, before we wrap, I read something about you which I like, and I want to know how you get these qualifications. So allegedly, uh, someone wrote, I think you, that that the way to your heart is through your stomach, and you happen to be one of the top 10. I want to make sure I got this right.
Uh-huh.
Top 10 diner review. So there's a lot in the country, according to Google. So I trust Google. So I'm
Yeah.
going to say, great. How do you qualify as a highly ranking diner reviewer?
So this now this is authentic, right?
I want to
So
know.
uh I eat out quite a bit. I am a single guy. I really
Yeah.
just don't like cooking for myself, and by the time I get home at night,
Mhm.
it's just way too late to cook anyways.
Cool.
So as the years had gone by,
Mhm.
um, I saw on my phone one day, it must have popped up or something. Hey, write a review for the food you just ate at whatever
Mhm.
place I was at.
Sure.
So I
Mhm.
did.
Mhm.
And I thought it was interesting. And I love good places. And I
Mm.
know there's a lot of foodies out there like me. So I said, wow, I guess I could just start doing this. It's
Mhm.
fun, it's engaging. It gives me a reason to go out and eat.
Mhm.
So I just started doing reviews of food joints every time I would go out. Now, I don't do it all the time. I don't do it
Mhm.
every time, I should say. But I was doing it enough at one point where I was ordering food, I was taking pictures of it, I was reviewing it, but I was giving very detailed descriptions of
Cool.
whatever I ate. And then I would
Mhm.
always give my opinion, like I ordered this or I've had this, I recommend this dish.
Mhm.
And on Google, the more specific you are and the more you give, obviously the more looks it's going to get, especially if there's pictures.
Mhm.
And then one day I just got this notification on my phone. You are in the top 10% of diner reviewers in the country. I said, well, how about that?
I think this is great. Now, there's so much I like about this. First off, I don't cook much either. I don't. I do eat out a lot, and I'm often more of a takeout guy. But if I'm in a car, you also brought up two things. The state of New Jersey is, to me, the diner capital of the United
Oh
States,
yeah. Oh yeah.
and the diner part I think is great. So when you're in a diner, what's your go-to meal with your 35-page menu? Where do you typically head?
So wings, 100%.
Okay.
Always wings. Pretty
Nice.
much no matter where I go, wings.
Nice. Nice.
All right. Burgers for sure.
Hmm.
I will always nail a burger. If I'm there for breakfast, you know what?
Right.
Let me just give you the breakfast, lunch, and
Yeah,
dinner menus.
please.
How's that? All right.
Done.
So if I'm there for breakfast,
Right.
by the way, there's a brunch menu too. So
So I didn't know that with diners, but anyway,
oh yeah,
thank you.
we put
You
it
just
together, man.
educated me
We put it
another time.
together.
Nice.
So for breakfast, it's
Mhm.
typically um, a ham, onion, and cheese omelet with deep fried home fries. They have to be deep fried,
Mhm.
not potatoes. They got to cut up a potato. They got to
Mhm.
throw it in the deep fryer.
Mhm. Not well done, you're saying. Deep
Right,
fried.
like put it in the deep fryer, fry it
Okay.
like they're French fries, but
I
it's a
got you.
cut up potato, right?
Hmm.
Uh, usually toast comes with that, so I'll do rye toast.
Hmm.
I'll get some kind of juice. I'll probably get a side of sausage links,
Hmm.
and I will do either an order of French toast or an order of pancakes with that.
Oh my God. Heaven.
That's pretty
That's a
much
killer
the go-to
breakfast.
breakfast.
Yeah,
Pretty much the go-to breakfast,
and about perfect.
right? Now, if I am out the night before
Okay.
with having a few too many adult beverages,
Right, right, right.
I'll go for brunch and I
Okay.
will create my own brunch menu. And
Got it.
my brunch menu consists of a lot of carbs. It's
Mm-hmm.
just an order of pancakes
Hmm.
and it's an order of chicken fingers with a side of strawberries on the side for my pancakes. And I will just eat all of it all at the same time because chicken fingers is like you can have syrup with it because there's
Hmm.
chicken with waffles,
Hmm.
and obviously you're having syrup with the pancakes, and strawberry is a fruit, so that makes it healthy. So that's the brunch menu.
Nice.
Okay.
I got it.
For for
Now for
lunch,
lunch. Right.
for lunch, almost always for lunch is some kind of
Hmm.
like fajita wrap, like chicken fajita wrap or something, and
Hmm.
it's got to have jalapeno peppers on it and French fries. Or I'm just gonna do your basic bacon cheeseburger deluxe standard.
Mm.
For dinner, like I
Hmm.
said, always wings.
Mm.
If they have any type of creamy soup, like a bisque or like
Oh,
a cream of
okay.
turkey or something, I'm doing
Right,
a
right.
bowl of it right out the gate with a loaf of bread, right? I will say to them, "Can you bring me out a loaf of bread with this?" Yep, and I'll dip that bread in that soup and just eat it like that.
Mm.
Uh, I
Mm.
said wings, right? I said the soup. My
Hmm.
go-to dinner meals
Yeah.
for a diner are chicken franchise.
Oh my God. It's been a minute since I've had that. I
Yep,
love it.
chicken
Okay.
franchise, which
Yeah.
is basically my go-to for anywhere I go,
Hmm.
almost, unless I'm like at an Italian joint, then I mix it
Sure.
up. Or I will do if they have like some type of special, like a chicken and shrimp scampi. I'll do one of those because
Hmm.
most of the diners will bring out like a huge bowl of it, and I'll dive into that. Or stuffed flounder. I love stuffed flounder,
Oh my God. So you
and I
know
like it.
all the good stuff, man.
You know the best part? Everything comes with it. You still get a starch, you
Yup.
still get a vegetable, you get a drink, and you get a dessert.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So now at dessert time, what's your diner go to?
Uh, so many. But number one,
Yeah.
hands down, apple turnover.
Oh my God. Right.
Apple turnover. If they don't have an apple turnover, I will ask for a double portion of rice pudding, and I ask them to bring me the can of whipped cream. I'm not even lying.
And at this point, they probably know, oh, he's the reviewer. You better get the can of whipped cream.
I can't.
All right.
I can't tell you how many times they have actually brought me the can of whipped cream.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. All right. So the next time we communicate, I'm going to hope, strongly hope, that it is at a diner, because you just made that such a pleasure for me. By the way, before we wrap, I'll just ask you this. What is the best way for our good folks that are watching and listening to find you?
I love getting in contact with people.
Mm-hmm.
You can literally just contact me directly. My cell phone is
Oh, great.
732-598-2672. I'll say it again,
Yes.
732-598-2672. Send me a text message. Let me know that you heard me here on the podcast. I will literally respond immediately if I can. If I'm in a meeting, I will get back to you. If you don't want to text me, you can find me all over social media. You can search for Dennis Mark or Dennis Mark Real Estate. Trust me, you will find me.
I was going to say, you made this so damn fun for me. So am I calling you Intro at this point, or are we going with Dennis Mark? Or
I'll tell you what.
Yo.
You could call me whatever you want. You can call me Dennis Mark. You can call me Intro, or you can call me Bravo, because that's my road name with my club.
Bravo.
Bravo.
Well, bravo
Johnny,
to you.
Johnny Bravo.
Best hair I think so far. 100. We are well past 100 episodes. Well past it. Best hair so far by
Hell
far.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Dennis Mark Interdonato, I am
Yes, sir.
really grateful that you showed up for me and showed up for us today. Thank you for a great conversation.
This was wonderful. Definitely at the diner next time.
Done.
Let's get serious about it. We'll set it up ahead of time. We'll let the diner know we're coming in. We'll set up the cameras. We'll have ourselves a grand old time.
Oh, man. Yeah, we will.
Yep.
Done. Folks, you have
Perfect.
just heard another episode of Your Message Received. Keep watching, liking, sharing, and we will keep driving content through your front door. John Duffin here, Duffin Media. Thanks so much for checking us out. Have a great rest of the day, folks, and we will talk soon. Be well. Bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.